Awesome. So I'm going to go ahead, as always, Greg, and watch the chat. Also, just continue to let people in, because what we find is they join throughout this whole hour when they get a chance to. We also have it live streaming in Workplace, of course, in our EXP family tree. So hi to you guys that are watching live there. And welcome for those of you that are attending live. This is great. I love to see a number on screen. That makes it a lot more fun for Greg when you guys are active, but I know you are you can't be. So use the chat box and mute your questions. As always, we love it to be super interactional. And, you know, I met Greg through Rich Tomasini, and you guys all know Rich, who is my direct partner here at EXP, and of course, one of the founders of EXP Family Tree. And Greg and Rich are business partners as well. Greg has a tremendous amount of success behind him, both in broker ownership and team building. And I'm super, super excited for him to bring some value in a conversation around database, right, Greg? Because I talk to coaching clients and my partners every single week about, like, you know, getting their database together or refining it, and it seems like such an overwhelming task that it's one of those things that people just avoid doing. And yet it's literally the foundation of our real estate business, right? So hopefully you can give us more ideas and things that we should be thinking about when it comes to that. And do you mind just giving a little bit of a background on yourself, just as a little introduction as well?
Sure. So, yeah, so thank you for that. I been in the business for how many years. I've been in the business now. 8 years. When I got in the business, I came from financial services before I got into this. So I came into it like right out of the gate with the ideas of that I was going to start a team. Got to the idea of then starting a team. I was like 1 year in the business. So my first year I came out of the gates pretty quick. I sold 9.5 million. My second year I started a team. We sold over 20 million. So I was like, wow, I think I got this. And we started building from there. But what I found, like looking backwards, was that it was the foundation that I had built with the database and the way that I was following up, but making it basic. I don't like, you know, there's a lot of bells and whistles, and for everybody that's on this call and for everybody that's watching, I want you to understand it. Like, I try to make it very simple for you to be sure that you're doing the basic tasks that you need to do in order to have success. And that's really important to me, because if it's not basic or if it's not simple, you're not going to do it. So it's really big on making it simple. So then career progressed forward with me then opening a brokerage. The brokerage got up to, we were doing close to about 150 million in sales. We ended up moving over to EXP, and now I have an organization with EXP of, I'm pushing over 70 people now in 11 states. So it's pretty amazing. But this is not about that. This is about database. So what I'm going to do is, and I appreciate you making me a co-host here, I'm going to share my screen. So that I can show you guys. Actually, hold on one second. I'll pull it up first.
And while you're doing that, the cool thing to hear is, you know, starting in your first year, having fast success, you know, almost 10 million. And then, okay, I can help other people do this. And then 20 million. And then all of a sudden, fast forward, not that many years. Greg hasn't been in this business 20 years. He said, you know, that long, if you think about this in a time perspective of being in a career, to build something 250 million. And I know a lot of what you do, Greg, is help people get back to the basics and simplify things so that you get into actual regular activities, because it's the activities that lead to the results. It's not the database and how pretty it is and how perfect it is that gets the results. It's the actual day-to-day activities. So I think we, as overachievers in this industry, most of us as entrepreneurs, we think we've got to go big or go home. You know, it's got to be this big, robust plan, or it's not worth doing it. And I tell people every day, it's always consistency over the intensity of something. So it's much better to go simple, so you do it more often, because you're going to gain much more momentum. And I think you probably carry that same philosophy.
Oh, 100%. You'll laugh in a couple seconds then when I pull up my presentation, because it speaks exactly to this. So it'll be funny to hear. So here, let me pull this up. So let me go back. Okay. So this is basically the way that I call it. It's like elevate your database and your mindset. So it's a little bit of a mindset as well. So and this is my presentation. So the way that I like starting things off is with, I'm big on like quotes, like inspirational kind of quotes, or things that will kind of drive people to ideas of where they are with things. So there's no shortage of opportunity. There's only a shortage of, and my screen is actually blocked out. So hang on one second here. I got to share my screen again. Lower this. there's only a shortage of those who will apply themselves to the basics that success requires. That's Jim Rohn. What's interesting is, and what I want to talk about a little bit is, we all know, and we are all very aware right now that we're in like a shifting, or it has shifted, right? The industry that we're in, and where we are with everything, right? So we're all fully aware of that. But what I want you guys to think about, like as a mindset with thinking about, because everybody goes to CRMs and they think about it from a perspective of like, this is like nerve wracking, or it's too much work, or I have to come up with these elaborate drip campaigns and all the jazz that most people think about with CRMs. I want you to think about more from a perspective of getting into the practice right now in where the market has shifted to, with being comfortable with being uncomfortable. Does that make sense? Like, I want you to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And what I mean by being uncomfortable is you got to get back to doing things that we used to do in our old, in the old environment that we lived in outside of the last 2 years. So you got to get back to the basic tasks of what we're doing, and continuously keep doing those tasks. And if you trust in that process, and if you trust in doing these basic things on a regular basis, to this quote that Jim Rohn has here, it will then lead to success. There's no magic sauce or magic to having success outside of doing the basics. There's a number of quotes, a number of things in the past. I've shared things in the past like this. Kobe Bryant was the best NBA basketball player in the world. It was in a book that I was reading. It was called Sustain Your Game. And they were referencing him putting on a clinic for people, and they all show up, and it was historic that he would have these unbelievable trainings that he would go through, but he would start really, really early in the morning. And by starting early in the morning, he would start going through all these little basic drills. And the person that was interviewing him said, I thought I was going to see a little bit more jazz, a little bit more show to what it is you had going on. And he said, it's really just, you were just working on basic drills, these fundamentals. It's crazy. Like, you're the number one player in the world. And Kobe looked at him and said, why do you think I'm the number one player in the world? And it's because he was doing the basics on a regular basis to make sure that he was having success in his career. And the way I want you to look at this is like what I'm going to explain in the presentation that I have here for you guys is I want you to look at it from a perspective, like a metaphor perspective of you're building a brick wall, right? If you're building a brick wall, you can't just all of a sudden stack all the bricks up there. You have to go brick by brick by brick by brick. And slowly then, over time, you look up and you have a wall, right? The other metaphor that I use on a regular basis with this industry and clients and database and how to grow it and how to grow your businesses, you have to look at your business as a fire, and you're just throwing pokers in the fire as much as you can, as many as you can, because you don't know which one's going to light at what time. And I teach a lot through examples. So I'm going to give you, as we're talking through this, examples that I have that happen to me on a regular basis. One that just happened recently as well. So I'll talk a little bit about this. Okay. So gonna see how this goes. So let's get into it. I'm gonna move through this kind of quickly because again, it's pretty basic, because I want to be able to allow any of you to ask questions at the end if you have any. Okay. So CRM basics. I love breaking it down this way. There's how many categories? Everybody has all these ideas of all these different subcategories and all these categories of my clients and how I want to classify them and what they all look like. There's two categories of clients. There's buyers and sellers. That's it. That's all we have. They're either buying a house or selling a house, or maybe doing both, but that's all there are. They're buyers. Okay. So let's keep this as basic as possible. Don't overcomplicate your processes, because it'll overcomplicate your thoughts too and make it too much. And that's what ends up happening, I feel, a lot of times with databases, right? I'm not talking about specific CRMs that anybody's going to use here. This is stuff that anybody can use with any type of CRM. Okay. Okay. So with that being said, there is a breakdown then to how you're going to view these clients. That's where the breakdown is. And you have buyers and sellers, like I said, those are the client categories. And then you have hot prospects, which is somebody that's probably going to do something with you in the next 3 to 6 months. Okay. And then you have nurture clients, which is somebody that's 6 months plus. That's it. It's basically the basic of how you should really be looking at your clients. Somebody's either a more long-term type of connection that I have to keep with them, or they're about to do something right now, so I better be a little bit more active. Does that make sense? Pretty much makes sense, right? Okay, cool. So, and continue with the basics. Here's your total categories. You got buyer, hot prospects and nurturers. You got sellers, hot prospects and nurturers. Okay. There's one last category though, which is the crown jewel of any database, and that's your past clients. That's your crown jewel, okay? Past clients, people that are, and I also categorize people as past clients, could be people that are very close to you as well. You can put them in that same type of category, right? But those are your past clients are your gems. But these are the categories that you have to look at when you're looking at your database and all the people that surround you, because it could be somebody that's a contact of yours, a cousin, a family member, a friend of a friend. They still fall into one of these categories. They're either a buyer at some point, maybe they're a first-time home buyer, they're living in an apartment right now, and they're going to be looking to buy a house. Maybe there's somebody that's living in a home and they're waiting to get their equity to a certain level. Maybe there's somebody that just had a child and they're probably going to have to move up. Maybe there's somebody that just had an empty nest and now they're going to have to move down. They're going to fall into one of these categories. Okay. And I try to keep it simple in that regard. Okay. So continuing with the basics, you have hot prospects. So this is how I want you, and I said I keep it really simple, but this is how I want you to think about how you're supposed to follow up with these types of clients. So you have your buyer and seller hot prospects. What you do, because everyone sees through, and I hate saying it, but it's the truth. Everybody sees through the AI, the BS drip campaigns that says you're thinking about buying a home. Everybody looks at it and goes, I know this is a robot, this is nonsense, and they hit delete or they spam you, okay? If you do it where it's a little bit more manual, and what you're trying to do with your database is set reminders for yourself. You're trying to make sure that no one ever falls through the cracks. That's the key to honing a database, is making sure that no one ever, oh my God, I forgot to text so-and-so. You never want that to happen. So the point in a database is to make sure that you have all of this information in whatever database it is, and you're setting reminders for yourself to make sure that you're touching these people and touch them in the way that they want to be touched. That's the cool part too. For many of you on this call, you probably like texting better than you like talking to somebody. I'm a talker. I like talking to people, so I'm probably going to call them. A lot of people still do love communicating just through email. I mean, I guess anybody on this call could probably tell me this. You'll text or call a client and you get an email back, and you're like, I mean, you seriously I just called you. Why send me an email? This is just the way they like to communicate. Okay, so communicate on their level. And then once you know what their level is, then you know on a regular basis to feed them that way, because that's how they want to be fed. Okay. So from a hot prospect perspective, what you're going to do is every 7 to 10 days, and this is, again, think about what I just said. A hot prospect, somebody that's probably going to do something with you in the next 6 months. So you're not doing this forever, right? But every 7 to 10 days, you want to make sure that you're staying in front of them. Now, the easiest way to do all of this, because I have on here, as you can see, info, market updates, you talk to them, you text them, add value to what it is that they have going on. The easiest way you can do this is, and I do this, and I learned this from years ago, and I can't take ownership in this. This was Joshua Smith, which is a GSD, if anybody knows him, GSD mode. Joshua Smith's mentality around coaching for hitting your database was once a week, you literally send everybody some sort of market update. I do that with my entire database. I have 30,000 emails going out every Monday to my entire database. And I have an open rate of over 50%. So you think about how many people are seeing my stuff, you wonder why we're doing volume.
And so it's because it's consistent, probably, Greg, that they're expecting Monday, I get a market update from Greg. So and I find value in that. So I'm going to open it up. That's how you increase your open rate, is by consistently putting the same thing out there that people find value in. So do you do that manually? Talk about that process really quickly. Do you go find information, have like a template, just change a few things, and then like set it as a one-time, not automated, but like a one-time email to everybody? Or how do you do that? Because that sometimes gets overwhelming for people. Like, okay, I'm going to do that every week, but like, what's my system around that to make it more simple?
Great question. Great question. So with that being said, I got to take a sip of water because it's still involved. No, I'm just kidding. It's very, very simple. So what you do is, if you're educating yourself, and again, we talked about this before, getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. We have to go back to how we transacted business prior to the explosion that took place during COVID, right? Go back to, you're reading articles, you're trying to be in tune with what's going on with interest rates, you're being in tune with what's going on in the market, volume that's happening, buys and sells, things of activity that's going on in the market. You're reading, and we are, right? We're professionals, we're all educating ourselves on things that are going on in the market. So if I'm reading an article that's interesting, I'm going to attach that onto an email and send it out to everybody. So one of the great resources, it's the simplest thing in the world. If you don't have it already, I mean, I don't know how every realtor doesn't have it because it's so easy to read through material, is Keeping Current Matters. You get a Keeping Current Matters account and go pull an interesting article and maybe one of their videos and send it out to your database. So again, I told you guys this, that I'm real big on teaching through examples, like because I need you to feel that it's real. So I have a neighbor of mine that had a friend of his. He was in the he was a pilot in the Army, and he has a friend of his who's a pilot, and they both work for American Airlines now. So his friend lives in Nevada. He lives here, 2 houses down from me, and he said, "Hey, my buddy's coming into town. He's thinking about buying a house. I want to introduce him to you." No problem. Basically walks down to my house. We talk for like 10, 15 minutes, and he says, hey, I might be interested in buying a house. So what he did was he ended up going and buying a lot in a neighborhood that was south of where we live. And then for all intents and purposes, ghosted me. I literally just never heard from him again. Told me he bought a lot. But what I did was I kept him in a hot prospect because I knew he was still somebody that was going to buy, right? So I kept sending him the emails once a week with the information that I send out to my whole database. But then every once in a while, I'd send them maybe a little bit something extra about what was going on with interest rates, or what was taking place in the market, how the volume of homes were going on, what was going on in the market, what it was going to look like to probably build a custom home, because now he had a lot that he was going to potentially build on, as opposed to maybe buying a resale. So I went through all these things and kept sending him stuff every 7 to 10 days. Well, sure enough, it's 3 months later and my phone rings and he says, "Hey man, we gave up the lot. We really want to move there. We're looking for a resale. Can you help me out?" No problem. It took me a week and a half. I got him under contract. We're under contract right now. So the reason why I'm saying this to you guys is because systems like this work. He literally point blank said to me, "It was unbelievable the way that you just kept sending me information and keep me in tune with what was going on. And that's why I called you back." I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. You know that's real. So this is, I have hundreds of examples of this, but this is an example that just happened to me, like literally, like I just put them on the contract like a week ago. So it works. Systems like this work. The whole top of mind, staying in front of them. That's what we have to do. And if you do that and consistently do it, to Carrie's point, if you consistently do it, there's no way that you're not going to then drive more business, hands down, because the next person's not going to do it. They're going to be uncomfortable. Maybe I shouldn't send them a text. No, send them a text. Always follow up. Okay, cool. That's hot prospects. So I'll allow some questions on all this stuff, as we move through and at the end as well. So just shoot them out. All right. So here's nurturers. Nurturers, obviously, you don't want to, if you're dripping on a nurture client, somebody that's saying to you, like, I have a person I've been talking to forever in my database. They're getting ready to list their house now, probably next spring. I'm not going to blow them up as a hot prospect every 7 to 10 days. And you're like, dude, like, why are you sending me so much? Like, I already told you, like, we're going to probably do something the next six months. Like, you don't want to hit them that much, because now you're going to make them angry. So there's the balance act, right? From a balance perspective, what you want to do is every 30 to 45 days, shoot them something that might be interesting. Now, keep in mind the market updates aspect that I was talking about before. If you're doing, and to that point, how I end up doing it as a process, like, an article, information, videos that you're sending out. If you're doing that on a weekly basis, you don't have to worry about that. They're seeing that every week anyway. Okay. They're checking in with that when it's something important to them anyway. But what you're going to do is you're going to send them something else, something additional, maybe a home that's sold nearby them. And touch points can be other things as well. Doesn't necessarily have to be data all the time. They want to feel the person as well too. So, like, perfect example right now, you have a task that pops up for a nurture client. What holiday are we going into? Thanksgiving. What's the easiest thing in the world to say? I hope you have a magical Thanksgiving with your family. And now you're in their face, top of mind. And when they're sitting down with their family, they're telling their family how this realtor's unbelievable. I can't believe this guy, Greg, he's sending me info. He's keeping me in tune with what's going on in the market. He just wished me a happy Thanksgiving. And they're talking about it at their dining room table, driving you more business. That's the way it works. That's the way staying top of mind works. It's just being in front of them on a regular basis. Just stay in front of them. Examples that I give through all this stuff. Again, I told you I like teaching through examples. Is it was a realtor.com lead that came in, never responded to anything. I kept sending out my emails, sent out my usual check-ins. Like to this point, it was somebody that was a nurture client. Never heard anything. 4 years later, after doing this for 4 years, this person connected with me and has since done millions of dollars of business with me. Has sent me referrals that has done millions of dollars of business with me. He's arguably my best client. Took me 4 years for this person to finally start doing business with me. But because I was consistent with the follow-up and making sure I stayed in front of this person, she ended up doing a ton of business with me. So it's an example of it does work, and it works every time. You just don't know when they're going to raise their hand and say, I'm ready to go. Okay. That's the nurture process. So here's your past client process. Okay. This is a little bit more involved because this is somebody who already knows you. You want to make sure that because they're going to be your biggest referral base. They're going to be the most important people to you. So these are the things you want to be doing with them. So the weekly emails you already got covered, right? So that's 52 of the touches you have here. Then what you want to do, if they're a past client, means they bought a house with you, right? Likely. You're going to want to set them up on some sort of seller report. Now, a seller report is different than a home bot report. A home bot report would be more of like a home value report. Many of you probably know what home bot is, but some sort of home value report. I think it's important that you do that because people love to know where their home is, and they know that Zillow is usually off. So they want to get something that's a little bit more data driven. And if you could set them up on one of these types of reports, it's fantastic. A seller report, the reason why I had that first is more of like what's going on with their neighborhood, which is easy to set up, right? Every neighbor is nosy and they want to know what their neighbors sold their houses for. So you set them up on that, just give them the information before they even ask for it. In conjunction with that, you're going to send out cards, a couple times a year. I think cards are huge because everybody gets those postcards, right? But if they get an actual physical card, and there's a lot of companies out there, company that I use is called Send Out Cards. There's a ton of companies out there that do this. It's fantastic. It's an easy way to send out cards to everybody. And everybody loves getting a card. I mean, I even get a card. Every year I get a card. For years, I got cards from Allstate Insurance. And every year I open it up, I'm like, God, you made me open it again. It's unbelievable how everybody's going to open a card. So you want to stay in front of them with that. Send them the text messages. Pick the holidays, 6 to 8 text messages. Pick 8 holidays throughout the year to send them a text message around the holiday. It's the easiest thing in the world to say. Hey, I hope you had a great 4th of July. Hey, I hope you had you're going to have a great Labor Day. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving. And it's the easiest thing in the world to do. It takes 2 seconds. It shows that you care. You're right at the top of mind. You're in front of them, especially when they're going to hang out with other people. So it's a phenomenal thing to do. You probably want to call them. It's good to talk every once in a while. They still want them to hear your voice. So call them a few times a year as well, on top of the text messages and everything else. And then my suggestion is then meet them for coffee or lunch, maybe once or twice a year. And then hopefully as your group gets bigger, or you leverage the groups that are around you or the people that are around you, you get some sort of gatherings, either a client appreciation gathering, or you could do it with other realtors. You could do it with a lender as a sponsor. Do some sort of gathering to get a number of your clients together, maybe once or twice a year. And if you do all these things, that's 100 touches yearly. Now think about that in terms of what I'm saying to you in a year. Does this seem like a lot? It's not really a lot. If you total up the amount of time, you're going to set them up on a report. You're going to send out a weekly email. You're going to set them up on a HomeBot report. You're going to set up a system that sends out cards 4 to 8 times a year. You're going to take about 30 seconds to send out text messages 6 to 8 times a year, and a couple of phone calls. If you really break it down, probably outside of coffee and lunch, you're spending about an hour's worth of time on these people, and you're going to touch them 100 times a year. Do you think you're probably going to do more business if you're in front of them 100 times a year? 100%. So that's why we do what we do with past clients. Now, what I want to show you.
I love that you have different, here's the one thing I love, that you have like HomeBot, you have send out cards, you have some of these different systems that work on your behalf, because I know too many people try to do all these things by themselves. And the problem is that you don't do it consistently. You don't end up having enough time. If you're running around with clients, that's what you're supposed to be doing. That's the revenue generating activities. Well, then you're not sending your cards out and you're not doing this consistently. And then that is a challenge. I've even talked to people about, getting a Calendly to set up the coffees and lunches. Like, people are totally cool with that, so that you don't have to go back and forth 17 times on a text or an email to schedule a call or schedule a coffee. And I just had somebody do this, and I thought this was awesome, Greg. Somebody who has been in real estate for a long time, and I had tried to reach out to her a while back, and I knew she was going through some transitions. And then all of a sudden I get a text from her that says, I know I've been off the radar for a little bit. I'm really trying to reconnect with everybody. I cannot wait to talk to you and catch up. Do you mind scheduling a quick call with me through my calendar link? And it was a Calendly. I was
Right.
not offended by that. I was like, this is awesome. I get to connect with her. Super cool. So you can make those things be more personal and make it be about like, I want it to be convenient and easy for you. I know you're busy too. So if you just use this link, it's going to be much easier, but I cannot wait to see you and catch up over coffee. And so just think of different systems that you don't have to execute on, you know?
And when I'm done, because I only got a little bit more of this presentation, so we'll have some time. If anybody wants to ask me what systems I use or how I utilize them, feel free as soon as we finish this up, because I'm an open book. I'll share all of it. It's easy to use in a lot of these. That automation is what has led to me being able to compound what it is that we've done with our group. And to that point, that leveraging those are tasks that that's not my highest and best use of time. Sending out cards or setting up reports or trying to manually go in and find houses that sold next to a seller that I have in my prospect list. It's setting up the systems that are then doing that, but then doing the personal touches like I talked about with the nurture clients and all that. So now I can personally just talk to them, but they're still getting all of this information then from the automated type of setup. When that's the key. Okay, so this is my setup for all you guys to use on a go forward basis. My suggestion, you don't have to use it exactly, but this is what I do with past clients. As soon as someone comes in so this client that I just told you about, that's going to end up buying a house with me that I just put under contract. As soon as they close, closing gifts, that's for you on how you want to end up wanting to do that. I got a little tactic I try to do with closing gifts. Usually about 2 or 3 weeks later, I'll just drop something off at their front door, take a picture and send it to them. So it's just kind of a little way to nudge them again, to remind them that I'm awesome. After 30 days, I send them a thank you card. So even if I sent them a closing gift, I still send them a thank you card 30 days later. That shows up automatically. So I put them, because that's my trigger of putting them into my system. So here goes a thank you card, boom. Now 30 days later, the thank you card's coming out. 30 days after that, I'm going to just check in with them, because now they're pretty much, that's 60 days. They're probably getting settled into their house pretty well. I'm going to check in with them and say, hey, you need anything? Anything you want to know, some restaurants are maybe in the area. Maybe I'll send them a handwritten note with some suggestions of restaurants that are surround their house, or any of my contractors that I work with, or anything that you think that they might need. Maybe it's something that came up in the transaction, that's something that they might be interested in, that you could send them a service provider on. Who knows? And at the same time, I'm also going to set them up on their home bot and their home value reports. So I'm going to set them up on their seller report, and I'm going to set them up on their home bot report. So then the following month, so now they're 90 days into their home, they're going to start receiving home valuations on their home, and they're going to know what's going on with their neighbors. Because after about 3 months is when everybody starts getting nosy about what's going on with their neighbors. So it's like perfect time frame. About 60 days after that, then what I do is I set up a reminder for myself. And this is my way of making sure that I'll never let anybody slide through the cracks. I set up a reminder for myself to stay top of mind. And I put their call, text, email, et cetera, because it's whatever works best. However you think that they communicate best. And we all know you have clients that you work with that you're like, I would meet this person out to dinner in 30 seconds. Or there's some clients you're like, I don't know, maybe I just want to say hi. So you got to kind of just balance that with how you're going to handle your client base. But if you set up these reminders, the reason why you're doing it for no other reason is that like I just said before, that no one will ever fall through the cracks. So there's no way you're going to go. Because I've sat down with agents that have come into my group, and I sit down with them. I said, so when's the last time you talked to your past clients? And they go, oh, totally forgot to talk to so-and-so. And I'm like, that'll never, ever happen with me. There's no way I'm ever going to forget about a client, because I have these reminders that are kicking in to make sure that never happens. Now, sometimes this is what happens to me often when your database grows and starts getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Sometimes I'll have a client that reaches out to me, like I get happy Thanksgiving texts from some of my clients. So they might send me a text like next week. And then when that reminder pops up, I just go, I already talked to Steve. It's fine. I already talked to Lisa. It's fine. And it doesn't matter, because I already talked to them. I could put a note in my database and just remind myself. But had I not, there's my reminder to make sure that I did. You get it? So that's all you're trying to do. Basically, you're setting reminders for yourself is really all you're doing. And you're going to do it forever. Forever. Just don't stop. Like, just constantly follow up with these clients. You never know when somebody's going to come back. when somebody's going to do something. It's just, it's mind blowing how many examples, how many times I've had clients that all of a sudden, like, you're not talking to them forever. So I have a client right now, husband and wife that just had a baby. I sold a house to close to Uptown, here in our market, and little house. So I knew when they had the baby, I was like, there's no way they're staying in this house. It was like a 1,300 square foot, not even, I think it was like 1,200 square foot house. Very, very, very little, even the way that the home was set up. Nice and great for walkability but now they're parents and they're not thinking about that. So for years, I was sending them, because I sold them their house years ago. I was sending them cards and my emails and all this stuff. Never heard boo. They never replied, nothing. And then all of a sudden, like 2 months ago, I got a text message. Hey, Greg, what's going on? I just wanted to say what's up. Like, the baby's 6 months old now. We're thinking about looking at some houses. Cool. It's that simple. So to me, you have to just constantly keep doing it. But the way that you do it is by setting reminders, because then it allows you then to massage the relationship based off of the way that your client is going to interact with you. Because you have different relationships with your clients. Now you're afforded that opportunity with the way that this is reminding you. I hope that makes sense. So what I end with is my last quote. It always seems impossible until it's done. So the biggest thing with CRMs and databases and everything that I just talked about, I tried to make this basic, and I hope that was basic, and I want you to ask me questions after I'm done here. That's for anyone else, Nelson Mandela. It is building out a database and getting it going to some seems like this daunting task. You just have to start doing it. So take all of your past clients and slowly start putting them into this type of setup and campaign. And then slowly start taking your hot prospects and buyer clients and putting them into that category. And then your seller clients as well. And what will end up happening, or seller prospects, what will end up happening is, if you just break it down to saying, let's just say you had a database, and this is the way I break it down for most people. You have a database of 300 people right now. Let's go even, you have 3,000 people in your database right now. If you did 100 a day, you'd be done in a month. So maybe you don't do 100 a day, maybe you do 50 a day, because that's manageable with what you have going on in your life and what you're trying to do with your clients. So you do 50 a day, that you're putting them into the categories and setting it up the way that I have to. Well, in 2 months, then you're done. So it's not impossible. It's just starting to build that wall, like I was talking about before. Brick by brick, the wall will eventually get built. So just start with, and the number one thing that I tell everyone to start with, and I'm gonna stop sharing my screen now so I figure out how to do this. The number one thing that I try to tell everyone to do out of the gate is your past clients. Because I said it when we were on the call right now, that those are your gems. You go get your past clients. And when I'm saying past clients too, think about for those of you who maybe are younger in the business or starting off, think about the people that surround you. Meaning, like, everybody loves this sphere. I'm talking about the people that are really close to you, though, that are going to appreciate that you're sending them this information, not just like, your mother's third cousin. We're not talking about like everybody that's in your sphere. We're talking about the people that are close to you, your friends, people that the second you're registered as, or that you got your license as a realtor, that you told that you were a realtor, those people, put them all into this type of platform now that you're following up with them regularly. Because guess what? They're going to sell their house with you, or they're going to buy a house with you. And this is why you have to follow up with them like that. Does that make sense? Very cool. All right. So like I said, I like move through the materials kind of quickly because I like people to ask questions. It usually gets interactive with the questions. Everybody always has questions. So what questions do you guys have?
Yeah, start asking away, start writing down some of these systems, seeing which ones make sense so that you can actually get some things on, on autopilot. I think that's the problem, is that we don't have systems, we don't have tools, we don't know what. So what CRM do you use, or what CRMs have you used that you've liked too, Greg? Because are you using Follow Up Speed right now?
No. So
okay.
So let me do it. So I knew I was going to get asked this question. I always get asked this question. It's usually the first question. So thank you, Becky.
Yeah.
This is the way that I tell everybody. I have a very interesting way of looking at CRMs. I've said this a number of times, and this is how I want you all to think about it. The best CRM is the one that you use, right? That's the joke that everybody says. So this is the way that I look at it. what the best CRM is for you. What makes the most sense when you look at it? Which,
Yeah.
from a setup standpoint, makes the most sense to you? Because all of them really do the same thing. So for me personally, Follow Up Boss, I've had for years, and I love the way that it looks. I can't stop using it. I just can't. I love it. I love the way it looks. I love the way it functions. It makes sense to me when I look at it, and that's why I use it. For others, it's KV Core. For others, it's Follow Up Speed. For others, it's Sync. Some it's Boomtown. It doesn't. Whatever the system is, it's the one that works best for you. Like when you look at it, it makes the most sense, and I'm going to want to use it. And that's the one that you should be using. It's that simple. Because they all do the same thing. I'm sorry, like they all do the
They
same
literally do. I agree with you. I found that it's more, what do you look at that just makes sense in your brain? It's really about the visual of how a CRM looks for most people, because it's all the same and you use it for the same thing, but it's so interesting how people will just really gravitate towards one or the other. So, you know, as we're moving into a shifting market, I think save as much money as possible, because sometimes it's not how much you make, it's how much you keep, right? So if you're getting the KV Core system for $85 a month with EXP, I would try that first. If for some reason you really just have a block and it's just not the system for you, you know, there's lots of different systems. I offer a lot of times as a great pipeline tool. It's not as much a tool for a CRM, but some people can use KV Core as a CRM to kind of have these automated emails or these newsletters or things going out pretty easily. Sometimes they need a better pipeline tool to manage their hot and warm leads and see it visually in a different way. And there is a pipeline tool called Monday.com, like the day of the week, Monday.com. You can get a free version of it. I use it for my coaching company, and I had hundreds of prospects in there, and you can move them around. You can even attach a dollar value to them if you want to put how much commission you think you're going to make from the person. It's a very, very good tool. And for people who are really visual, it's color coded. You can move people around really easily by literally dragging and dropping. And it's like, you don't have to create it. Like some people will do this on a Trello board, but they have to create it. I don't create things, so that didn't work for me. You know, so you got to think about what works for you. But yeah, those are all great tools. Does anybody have a CRM that they use right now that they like a lot, just to share with others, just out of curiosity?
There's a pretty simple one out there. It's called Wise Agent. I think it's, you know, for thinking about costs, it's like $30 a month. And so pretty simple, but like you say, they all kind of do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest thing with all of them, what it always comes down to with all of these tools, I see there, Brevity, that's Ben Kinney's system, right? Excellent. I mean, there's a lot of great systems that are out there. What I also try to tell everyone too is, so if you're newer to CRMs, go with something that's a little bit more basic, because you don't want to get overwhelmed with all the bells and whistles.
Yeah.
If you're not newer to CRMs, then you can start to then build into maybe using something else.
Yeah.
I've been using CRMs so long, because even in my prior business, I was using CRMs before I got into real estate. So for me, like I could pretty much use any CRM if I really had to. I feel as though I'd be able to figure it out. But again, even for me, after years of using them, aesthetically, Follow Up Boss made the most sense to me. So that's the one that I use on a regular basis. Like it's just whatever one works best for you is going to be the one that you're going to use and feel comfortable using is going to be the best for you, because that means you're going to go back to it regularly and continue to use it for what the tool is that it's supposed to be, which is to make sure you stay in front of your clients. That's all you really want out of it. It's not it's not a magic maker. It's just a reminder system.
So, somebody says Brevity, and a lot of people use Brevity. Brevity is definitely a broker agnostic one as well. It started with something that's a KW, but of course, Brevity is through all different brokerages now, because they're a separate company outside of KW. So that's a good one. I know a lot of people use that. Worley Real Estate Network, whoever that might be there, says, do you handwrite these cards or do you use a company for them? My handwriting stinks.
There's no way I handwrite the cards, because I can't even read what I write down sometimes after I write it. So no. Yes, the send out cards will actually, you could type it in all different fonts or however you want to make it look like handwriting, or however you want to do it. That's the company I use to send out cards. You can send out cards from there and it'll look like it's handwritten. It's beautiful and all that, but no, I do not. And the number one thing that I liked about send out cards as a company, and I know a lot of them do that now, but on the actual envelope, it looks like it was written with a blue pen. So,
Yeah.
and I know there's a lot of companies that do that now, but like, I know for a fact, like even when it comes to my house, like, cause I send them myself because I want to see, like, see the
Yeah,
quality of
what
it.
it looks like.
Lines
Yeah.
up, and I'm like, man, this is good. This is good. Like, I'm impressed with it. So it's definitely a good company, but I definitely do not handwrite them. No, I do not.
Yeah, so I like that, you guys. I have had multiple people use send out cards and love it. That might be one to look into, or or a similar company. Just Google send out cards, and I'm sure you'll see a variety of companies. Find the one that you like, but that is one that I've had a lot of testimonials on, so we know it works and it seems to be well received. Chrissy says, I get hung up with creating the right smart plans or drip campaigns. I know they are easy to create in KV Core, but would love some shared campaigns if anybody wants to wants to share them. Do you have campaigns, anybody in KV Core that has worked well that we could share with each other? Do you have any thoughts on drip campaigns and smart campaigns, Greg, in general, to not have it be so complicated?
So yeah, to that point, what and I'm just gonna tell you this, like, from my perspective of what I've seen. I spent years. So when the time frame that I came into the business, how this kind of evolved and where we are now, drip campaigns were getting really, really hot. Like my first like year or two in the business. So I spent like hours and days and months like putting together the right email that then would go out with the right text and make sure it sounds great and all this stuff. And now after years of so many people coming out with these complicated and I say complicated because it does get overwhelming and robotic in essence drip campaigns, I feel as though it's become like noise now. The reason why I said that what I showed you before, the way the system is that I have set up is I do send out a generic email. I'm not sending out some generic email that, hey, you thinking about buying a house? I'm sending out information about what's going on in the market. So basically, I'm bringing them data on the market on a regular basis, on a weekly basis. And then in conjunction with that, then I'm being me. So here's your data, and then here's Greg. So now you're getting both sides of the equation in that here I'm personally checking in with you. I'm saying something that's going on. You know, I mean, look, at the end of the day, you know where your hot prospects and all these clients are going to come from. They're the people you're going to start to engage with that are going to start to tell you things about their lives. They're going to tell you like we're having children or I'm an empty nester now or whatever they're going to tell you. They're going to start telling you things that you're going to connect with, and it's why they're going to do business with you. So you're going to leverage the CRM then for notes and then go back to them with information about them. And then they go, this guy's really in tune with me. This person's really in tune with me. That's what you're going to do. So these automated drip campaigns, I'm just not a believer in them anymore. I was at one point, I'm not going to lie, because I think it was new, but now there's so many of them. It's just noise to everybody. If they see something real from you personally, it's going to resonate so much more than, hey, are you thinking about selling your home? Like, come
Yeah.
on. You could probably get 1,000.
I agree. I almost think to do away a little bit with the drip campaigns, unless you get a lot of cold leads in and you're just funneling hundreds of leads in from ads, then yeah, put them on something. But honestly, we did it so simple, Greg, when we did our drip campaigns. It was literally a monthly check-in and was rotated between text and phone. And it literally said, hi, Greg, it's Carrie here at eXp Realty. Just want to check in and see how you're doing. I mean, it was literally that simple, because that seems less automated than, hey, this whole long email that looks like, somebody else besides you wrote it. So we would just do really simple, like every other month kind of check-ins. And it just sounded like a human being to a human being. Wanted to make sure nothing changed in your situation. Do you need any help with anything? How's our website working for you? Are you able to search for what you need? Very, very simple things. You could come up with 5 of those sorts of sentences and literally rotate them between a text and an email and put like just very cold leads that are coming in from ads on something very simple like that. And that's probably the only automated thing you need, unless you want to do an automated, holiday greeting or something of that nature. But if you use something like send out cards, you might actually get a better response than an email from that you send to somebody anyway, honestly.
I completely.
And then if you had something that you just put a rotation and said, I'm going to use my database and I'm going to go send a message to 10 people every day, asking them if they would be interested in going to a coffee or a lunch, and you just scheduled that out, If you just did that, you probably wouldn't have to do anything with your past clients other than that, because most of you do like a holiday event, or, you know, you do a backpack drive. I mean, you are doing things already to stay connected, and social media keeps you connected to people all year long if you do it correctly. So you're touching people in that way. You've got to almost bring it back to more personal touches and conversations. And so I think that we can maybe stop thinking about our CRM in the way of just all these drip campaigns that overwhelm us that we never set up anyway. And we should start using it to enable us to actually reach out to people. You said something, Greg, at the beginning. We got to get in the habit of using a CRM to just look at the people in the CRM to remind ourselves we should do something with these people and talk to them again. Because the foundations and the back to the basics of having real live conversations with human beings is what gets us transactions, and actually moving into a shifting market. We have to do more of that, right?
This is 100%. That's what I'm preaching to my team, and why I'm on this call talking about it now. The premise behind these elaborate drip campaigns that are all of a sudden going to generate business, it's gone. It's a fallacy. I'm sorry. It's not real anymore. If you're somebody that is driving a ton of online lead generation, you have to set up some sort of automation because you have so many leads coming in that you can't get to it. That's a whole different ball of wax than what we're talking about right here. Right here is everybody having your normal sphere of influence that is built outside of that with past clients and other people that you have in a database right now. The way that you have to follow up with them is on a personal level. Like Carrie just said, what you have to utilize the CRM for is, again, I've said this a number of times, you heard me say it now, it's a reminder so that you never let somebody fall through the cracks. That's what it is. Because if you don't put them into some sort of system like this, like, you can't just sit there operating like, you know, oh, I'm going to remember to call somebody today. It's never going to happen. You're never going to remember all the names or who you followed up with at what point in time, what you discussed the last time. So you're using it as a way to massage your relationship, to make sure that you're having all this information with these folks that you're interacting with, and understand them and understand their needs, their wants, their goals, their need, everything. Okay. In combination with that, then it's reminding you to make sure that you never forget about checking in with them, making sure that they're staying on track with everything that you discussed. That's what a CRM is useful for these days. And that's what you have to utilize it for.
So you can get really simplistic, you guys. Use a pipeline tool so you don't forget people. Put all of your past clients into a constant contact or a MailChimp just so you have your list. You know, have them in a CRM more for reminders. So, I got to send these 10 people a text today asking them if they'd like to go to a coffee because it's been a quarter and I haven't done that yet. Like, just organizing it in that manner can be so much more simple, and you don't have to come up with a bunch of content, which is usually what's holding you back. There's a question in here quickly. Do you use constant contact, MailChimp, etc. for email send outs with keeping current matters and market updates, or can you allude to maybe a system around that?
Yes. So I do use MailChimp. I don't have to use MailChimp. There's mass emailing. I know KV Core does mass emailing. I know Follow Boss. I know Follow Speed. Like, I know most of these systems do mass emailing. So you don't necessarily have to use a MailChimp account as much anymore. If you're trying to make it more of a newsletter, marketing type letter along those lines, you can. If you want to keep it basic, you can just do mass emailing with, like I said, like a video and maybe an interesting article. Usually you can copy and paste those things into any sort of email format and be able to send it out. So you don't necessarily have to. Again, I'm a big believer in don't overcomplicate it. If you want to jazz it up then later, but just get in the process of doing it. And then you can always then move your contacts into a constant contact or MailChimp if you want to jazz that up later. But realistically, it's more just getting it going and getting the content out. So you can use them if you'd like, but you don't necessarily have to. And I do use MailChimp. So I'm somebody that uses them, but you don't have to. Good question.
What else? Unmute yourselves or chat in the chat box. I'm going to check and see if anybody has anything on live stream that they're asking us questions about. No, but people are saying you're awesome. So no questions there. We have a number of people watching live. So thanks you guys for doing that. Any other thoughts or questions? Unmute yourselves, you guys.
I just want to say thanks. This is all super helpful. It was a good reminder of a lot of these things that I have paid subscriptions to that I am not using the way that I should be. And before this even started, I was really working in my database because it has to be very cleaned up and tagged properly and whatnot. So it's all super relevant to what I'm working on. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, good to hear. Yeah, don't overcomplicate it when you go through that process too. Just move along methodically and make sure that you put everything into one bucket or the other so that they're getting touched.
I'm just so glad to hear you say this about the smart campaigns, because I was feeling that way and I've it's just held me up so much because I know that I don't have the right people on the right things. And I've been so hung up on that. And I am just so relieved to hear you say that. So that just saved me a world of time.
Yes.
Yeah.
It goes back to I mean, what I just kind of started off saying about getting comfortable, the practice of getting comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So right now, like everybody's like uncomfortable on what it is they should be doing. But what you have to get comfortable with is you have to just start moving forward. You can't sit around and think about all these elaborate ideas and all these things you could do. But if you're not taking any action, then nothing's happening. So you have to start moving. You have to start progressing forward. And if you do that, then it's going to lead to success.
Mhm.
There was I'll give you a kind of a note of this. So there's a few of the books that I read. There's one I've given this out a few times. Sustain Your Game. It came out in 22 by Alan Stein. In the book, one of the things that they talk about is whether or not you feel the slump or the spark. Okay, so example as a realtor is the greatest thing in the world that we can go through, especially where we are in the industry right now. You wake up, it's Tuesday morning. I got an inspection that comes back. The clients are aggravated about there's damage to the foundation. You're going back and forth with the listing agent, and we don't know if it's going to get repaired. And next thing you know, you look up and it's 3:00, and you're like, I didn't do anything today. The difference of who's going to have success in our current market and where we are on a go forward basis now is going to be if you feel the spark or you hit the slump. And the slump is, you know what? I'll get to it tomorrow. The spark is, I have to get this done today. And if you get it done today and you take that initiative to get that work done, or whatever it was that was in your CRM that was reminding you to do something, make sure you sent still that text out or that email out to that client, and you do those tasks, you'll start to gain even more and more traction moving forward. And that's all that it comes down to.
I don't know if this, sorry. I don't know if this would be helpful to anybody, but when we were at EXPCon, I heard a couple of the speakers like, start with your phone, start with your phone, start with your phone. And I was like, this is so confusing, start with your phone. But it finally clicked, took a few weeks because I have terrible ADHD. I private message 5 of my friends on Facebook every day. I now add 5 new contacts on LinkedIn a day. And I find 5 new contacts on Instagram a day. And then I just go through my actual phone because I have like an ungodly amount of contacts. And I'm like, hey girl, oh my gosh, where are you living at these days? Or I'm a military spouse, so all my friends live all over the world. But y'all, that's 20 people a day I now talk to. And I've been doing this for 2 weeks. Godspeed. Now I'm overwhelmed with people, like in a good way, but like, so if anyone is like, where do I start? They kept saying at EXPCon, but you start with your phone, literally.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's helpful for anyone, but it's picked my business up dramatically in 2 weeks.
Yeah,
I
because
remember
you
that
already have
conversation.
databases in front of you guys, right? Facebook is a database, LinkedIn is a database. We already have them. We're just not doing anything with those contacts in a consistent manner. Then once they re-engage with you, what you should do is ask them to make sure you have the right information. And then you could take those people 5, 10, 15 a week, if you could do it on a Friday, and then put those into a newsletter like MailChimp or your send out cards or whatever. So now you can keep in touch with them in that way too. So that could become a really good system. I love that. Chrissy, what were you saying? That's awesome, Jen. Thank you.
Oh, I was just telling Jen, I was in that conversation and I remember it. And there was even more to it because I know I talked to our group about it. But as far as all your contacts in your phone, how many do you have in there that you don't even know who they are? So yeah, that's another, right? Just shoot a message.
So just shoot a message and say, what would the script be? Like, hey, I see that you I are connected here. Your number in my phone somehow, and I'm going to be honest, I've changed phones or whatever, and I don't have your contact information. Who is this? By the way, this is Chrissy, you know,
Yeah.
and then like, oh, and then you all of a sudden now you're getting in conversation with people you don't even remember. But also, you guys, like, I know there's a bunch of people in my phone that are not anywhere else. They're not in a newsletter campaign. They're not in, I mean, there's probably 10,000 people on this phone. I know, because it takes hours to change my data over when I get a new phone, and I don't know, you know, so, and it's alphabetized, right? So I'm just going to do A's this month, and then I'm going to do B's. Like, we could literally just dumb this down for ourselves, but we've got to just decide something and just do it.
So one of the things that it's funny listening to all you guys talk about this. One of the things that, like, again, questions that I've been asked on how to utilize the database and how to use all these things. Every single contact that I ever get, if it's somebody that I'm talking to, like example, the person who sold me my car, he immediately went into my database and went into my phone. So now I have him in both places, and he immediately then became a prospect, and then I sold him a house. So I look at it as if you run everything that's in your phone parallel with what you're doing with a database, and now you're putting them in this system. So now they're getting emails from you, they're getting phone calls from you. Like, again, to that point, you have a downloadable database that's sitting on your phone right now that you could insert into a CRM and then do everything we just talked about. Start sending them emails about content about what's going on in the market. I guarantee you, this is what I've said this a million times to people. If you look at it, it's a simplistic way of looking at an overall database. If I handed anyone on this call 100,000 emails right now, do you think you'd be successful? 100%. That's all that using a CRM is making sure that you're just sending out information to people, and then who raises their hand that they want to do something. That's all it is. I started to oversimplify it, but that's what it is. What else? Or I don't know. We only got like 2 minutes, so I don't want to.
Yeah. Any last minute things that you have that you want to ask about or add to the conversation quick? Anyone?
Sweet.
All right. Awesome. So, I mean, the biggest thing, you guys, is pick like one of these things, because now you have a lot of ideas. Even though all of these ideas were simple, we still can't do all the things at once. So pick the one thing that really stuck out to you and just go do that first, and then move to something else on your notes. By the way, this is live stream, so you can watch it as many times as you want to in EXP Family Tree. It will also show up in my YouTube, Carrie Briner. If you want to share this with anybody else, usually within 24 hours or so, it is live. And then, you know, you can, you know, take that and rewatch it and go, okay, this was the one thing I heard. I'm going to do that first. This is the second thing I heard. This is a great time of year to get back in contact, say happy holidays, check in with people. It's just a phenomenal time of year to get organized, get your send out cards, get a newsletter going. If you're going to do an event, you know, get on your phone and start inviting people. And then as they respond, go, okay, I don't have this person in my database. I'm just going to take a half an hour every day and now move these people into my database. Those sorts of little tiny things that you could do would make a big, big difference over the course of the next few months. And we've got all of November still, December, and really realistically, you know, January too is a great month to be prepared for the rest of the year, because it just starts to speed up from there. But all of these activities, if you're doing them now, help you get organized, but they keep you into what? Actual live conversations with human beings, which is the only thing that really actually ever leads to real business. So it's like, this is double duty here. You're doing it to get organized, but you're actually lead generating at the same time, just simply because you're getting into conversations. So I'm excited for this conversation. It was a great time for you to come on, Greg. It's a great time of year. Thank you for this. You guys know where to find the recording if you want to share it with somebody else. We really appreciate you for being here. By the way, Greg is in our EXP Family Tree and does a ton of things for us. So watch for him, find him, you know, friend request him in Workplace, follow him, whatever it is that we do there. And I think that you'll get a lot of value from him, not only here, but hopefully, Greg, we'll have you back on one of these Tuesday and Wednesdays as we get into the new year too.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Nice to see you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.